Hello everyone. Today is Wednesday and I am blogging about my day at camp. So one of the sessions I went to was assessing student understandings through writing, and what it was is they discussed how to incorporate writing in the math classroom in a way where students are able to see their progress, are able to really understand what they're doing, because a lot of the times they might be doing those problems and solving those equations, but are they really understanding what they're doing, or are they just mimicking what they've been taught in class? And so by allowing the students to write about their experience, about what they're doing, it helps them really understand, okay, am I getting it? Am I able to communicate this math to other people? And that allows them to go to those deeper thinking levels, and which is more difficult if without using writing. So basically, they talked about their procedures and what they do in their classrooms, and one of the emphasis was to focus on this process, and it was the individual to the small groups to the whole class, and using that sort of loop in the process. So you start out, you say, have the student write about, how they solve this problem, and you give them a little bit of time. Then you go to, okay, so now in your groups, pass your paper around once and read it to yourselves. Just have everybody pass it to somebody else and have them read it. Then you switch again, and you switch one more time. So during this time, there's no talking, there's no discussion. It's just, okay, the other students in their group are reading their paper, and they're thinking in their heads, okay, what am I seeing? What is this student writing about? What's similar to what I wrote? So what is similar to my thinking? What is different to my thinking? So what's different than what I wrote? And then the third thing that they focus on when they're reading other students' writing is what is missing. Like, what do I want to know more about? What do I want you to elaborate on, that you didn't really touch on that would be beneficial in this explanation? And so what happens is, once they do that, then within their groups, you give them a little bit of time to talk about those three things that they were thinking about while they were reading each other's samples. After they do the small group, then you go to the whole group and you kind of summarize. So you kind of say, okay, does anybody want to volunteer to share? And then if nobody volunteers, then of course you prompt them with questions like, okay, so who came up with more similar ideas than different ideas? Which tables, things like that. And one suggestion, there were, after we kind of discussed the meat of the session, then what we did was we kind of brainstormed, okay, what kind of problems would we come across? And how would we address them? And so I'm not going to go into full detail about that, because you can probably guess about what your own problems would be. But one of the main problems was, how do we keep them motivated to do it, getting them into that routine, and, their writing skills aren't that great kind of thing. And addressing it is putting that routine into place to where they get used to doing it and helping them improve in that. Going to an English teacher in your school and asking them, so how do you teach them to write? And do you have any suggestions for me as the math teacher? And then another aspect of it is to introduce the writing in a way that's not math related. Because, students are like, oh, I don't know how to do math, or I don't know how to explain it. And so if you introduce the writing process to them with something like, describe the school, or, describe your typical day, or the typical classroom. So then they get used to doing a written sample, but it's not math related, so it kind of breaks the ice. And then once they break the ice and they get used to doing that writing, then you can do it with the mathematical concepts. So that was a really good session, and I enjoyed it, and I'm hoping I can successfully incorporate it into my classroom.